Top 20 Electrician Apprentice Interview Questions and Answers. Attending an interview without the slightest idea of the type of questions you will be asked makes you freak out. However, this article covers the top questions that are likely to be asked during an electrician apprentice interview. Sample answers that will make you stand out from the rest are also included. 1. Tell us about yourself. The interviewer seeks to know more about you. Tip number 1. State all your qualifications and experience. Tip number 2. Be eloquent and brief. Sample answer. I hold a certificate in an electrical apprenticeship, with over 5 years of experience in the electrical field. Currently, I work as an electrician apprentice in JBL company. I am very passionate about my work. I perform all my duties carefully to realize outstanding results. If I am given a chance, I will always work diligently and effectively. 2. What is the most advanced electrical skill you have learned so far? The interviewer wants to know if you possess great skills and potential. Tip number 1. Describe your best skills. Tip number 2. Be courageous and give all important details. Sample answer. I am always confident while solving an electrical issue and ensure I provide excellent output. I have learned and gained the ability to interpret and produce written communications. I have all the knowledge needed to handle electrical installation. Moreover, I'm physically fit and have manual dexterity and good vision. 3. What will you do if you are assigned a task you are not good at? The main aim of this question is to test your level of integrity. Tip number 1. Be honest and say what you will do in that scenario. Tip number 2. Only give a relevant and sensible answer. Sample answer. Electricity is so dangerous and can't be handled anyhow without sufficient knowledge. Therefore, I can't do a task I am not good at on my own. I will take the next step and ask for help from my colleagues, and together we shall work on the task. My colleagues' cooperation will equip me with all the knowledge to handle the job on my own the next time. 4. What will you do when you notice some dangerous exposed wires in your working place? Here, the employer is testing your knowledge of electricity and safety protocols. Tip number 1. State all the safety protocols relating to electricity. Tip number 2. Explain how you will handle the wires. Sample answer. I will do the first thing to turn off the power from the main switch. This is after I have made sure I am free from water. After that, I will use an electrical tape to wrap around the exposed wire until it's covered, and this is because the electrical tape does not transmit electricity. After all this, I will turn on the power because it will now be safe. 5. What qualities should an electrician apprentice possess? The employer wants to find out if you are knowledgeable about qualities that can make you effective. Tip number 1. State all the characters which prove you are fit for the job. Tip number 2. Show that you have the qualities and be courageous. Sample answer. An excellent electrician apprentice should have good communication skills since he or she will need to work with different types of people. They should be independent enough to work independently, hence, they should have a vast knowledge of the overall electrical problems and fix them. Furthermore, he should pay attention to details, dependable, and have good time management skills. 6. How will you diagnose an electrical fault? The interviewer wants to know your knowledge of electrical fault. Tip number 1. Prove your knowledge of electrical fault. Tip number 2. Be confident while explaining. Sample answer. I will switch off the main power box and separate the circuit. I intend to work on it by removing the circuit fuse. After that, I will put it in a safe place to avoid accidental loss. I will then attach a note to the unit to inform everyone that I am working to keep off. Lastly, I will check if the circuit is not working by using a socket tester or voltage tester for lighting circuits. 7. What is the most important safety concern for an electrician? The interviewer would like to know if you are aware of the safety measures related to electricity. Tip number 1. Convince the interviewer that you value your safety and that of others. Tip number 2. Explain what you know on the essential safety concerns for electricians. Sample answer. Through class work and work experience, I have learned that the most crucial risks to an electrician and those nearby include electrical burns, fire, and fatal electrical shock. That's why I ensure to use the PPE gear and proper tool to avoid serious accidents, which can endanger my life and those in the surrounding. 8. Why did you apply for this electrician apprentice job? The interviewer wants to know what attracted you to their company. Tip number 1, show that you have a vast knowledge about the company. Tip number 2, research about the company before attending the interview. Sample answer: I decided to apply here after going through your website, and the background, reviews, and feedback about this company were great. I found out your company is so professional and respects customers and everyone who visits it. You offer excellent and satisfactory work, thus have loyal customers, and I realize this is the place I should be. 9. What electrical systems you have worked on and are knowledgeable about. The interviewer wants to know more about the distinct systems which you know about. Tip number 1, relate the electrical system which you have worked with. Tip number 2, mention the systems you are comfortable working on. Sample answer: I have dedicated a lot of my time to reading and analyzing mechanical and electrical work. I have worked and learned a lot from industrial electrical work. Currently, I am working on residential associated electrical problems like installation, repair, altering, and maintenance of the electrical system. Moreover, I am comfortable working in any area. 10. Can you work effectively with others? The employer wants to find out if you are capable of working with a wide range of people. Tip number 1, show the interviewer that you are a team player. Tip number 2, give a convincing answer. Sample answer: I have always worked with different people, with different cultures and attributes. The experience is fantastic since I get the opportunity to learn more things that better my communication skills, which positively impacts my career. 11. Do you like working in a commercial or a residential setting? The interviewer wants to find out if you have choices on the type of job you will be taking. Tip number 1, state the place you prefer working. Tip number 2, be honest. Sample answer: I have no preferences when it comes to working, and this is because both places have unique both advantages and disadvantages. I use that as my stepping stone to get more knowledge. I am equipped with all the knowledge needed to work in either commercial or residential places. Thus, I am independent and work smart to produce the best results. 12. What is the function of a circuit breaker and a fuse? What is the difference between them? Here, the interviewer wants to test your familiarity with fuses and circuit breakers. Tip number 1, mention the function of a circuit breaker and a fuse. Tip number 2, state their difference. Sample answer: both breakers and fuses are protective devices. Breakers are used multiple times, while fuses are used one time and are quicker to interrupt power flow. Besides, the fuse works on the thermal and electrical properties of the conducting material, whereas a circuit breaker works on the electromechanical principles. 13. How do you handle setbacks in your career? The interviewer intends to know your reaction when it comes to obstacles in the job area. Tip number 1, explain how you handle unexpected issues. Tip number 2, illustrate your ability to move forward despite the challenge. Sample answer: setbacks always occur from time to time and can cause disappointments. Whenever I encounter a setback in my workplace, I always inform my employer and discuss what I could have done in the scenario to be successful. However, I use the setback to come up with a successful plan. 14. How do you handle criticism? The employer wants to test your ability to manage criticism and get a positive result from it. Tip number 1, show your ability to work amidst criticism. Tip number 2, explain how you deal with criticism. Sample answer: from the time I began my apprenticeship, I have faced a lot of criticism. However, that has not made me give up my career. Instead, I manage complaints well and execute the feedback very fast to improve my skills and create the electrician's best habits. I don't, in any case, respond negatively to criticism. 15. Why do you think I should consider you as our next electrician apprentice? Here the interviewer wants to know the outstanding quality that makes you stand from the rest. Tip number 1, showcase your good and unique qualities. Tip number 2, convince the interviewer that you are the best. Sample answer: I believe I am the right fit for this job, and I am qualified and familiar with the kind of industrial projects you handle. I am reliable, a team player, and very passionate about adding value to your organization, and, besides, learning and gaining more skills related to repair and electrical operational maintenance. 16. As an electrician apprentice, what are your career goals? The interviewer wants to hear your goals relating to the career. Tip number 1. Briefly explain your goals in the electrician apprenticeship career. Tip number 2. Show that you have great goals. Sample answer. My goal is to become the best, highly skilled, and certified electrician apprentice, have all the knowledge needed to promote safety, impact positively young people who wish to venture into the electrical industry, and further my studies in the electrical field to give the best results and increase my creativity skills. 17. Describe a scenario where you were given incomplete instructions about a project. What did you do? The interviewer seeks to test your creativity and knowledge. Tip number 1. Show that you manage the situation like a pro. Tip number 2. Make sure the explanation makes sense. Sample answer. On one occasion, I was asked to fix and repair electrical wires in a residential home, and I wasn't given exact details on how the job. I didn't get tensed, I just studied the house and did some research. After that, I implemented everything I had learned, and the output was excellent, and my employer was so happy and satisfied with my work. 18. How do you troubleshoot a blackout? The employer wants to know your experience on blackouts and how you solve the issue. Tip number 1. Describe how you troubleshoot blackouts. Tip number 2. Show you are knowledgeable about troubleshooting a blackout. Sample answer. In case of a blackout, I will switch off and unplug various electronic equipment and appliances throughout the home or company. I will then flip off all the breakers at the circuit breaker, continuously turn the main breaker off and on, and end with the on position, and lastly reset the entire breakers one after the other. 19. What steps will you take if a coworker gets an electric shock? Here, the interviewer wants to test your skills and experience on electrical shock and how to solve. Tip number 1. Showcase your knowledge in solving electrical shock. Tip number 2. Go straight to the point. Sample answer. I will quickly turn off the primary source of power. If it isn't possible, I will move the colleague away from that area. After that, I will use a no-conducting object such as plastic, wood or cardboard to separate the power source colleague. In case he doesn't show any sign of circulation, I will begin administering CPR to the colleague. 20. Briefly explain how you would prevent high-voltage electrical systems from breaking down. I always ensure that I make preventive maintenance daily by monitoring readings and enforcing significant action. Suppose readings fluctuate at a faster rate. I ever survey all feeders and make sure the line has the right ground clearance, especially at the termination joint. Besides, I always ensure all the DTRs have the correct fuse connection, and there is no sparking. Conclusion. By using these electrician apprentice questions and answer and putting into practice, you will understand the scope of all areas that are likely to be tested and how to answer related questions. Read and practice them to prepare adequately for your next electrician apprentice job interview.